Happy Monday, my Liberty kitty cats. And before we get into today's episode, in which one of our amazing patrons will be taking over the producing duties today, first I've got to tell you about an awesome sponsor we have of this program. It's another great podcast. An amazing podcast that you absolutely have to be listening to. It is the Expat Money Show, hosted by my good friend, Mikkel Thorup. I have known Mikkel for several years now. One of the great things about hosting a podcast is the people you get to connect to, and Mikkel has been one of the absolute most valuable resources, particularly with his program, the Expat Money Show. Mikkel has been an entrepreneur and an expat for decades now. He has done it all himself, and there is no better resource for those that are looking for a plan B, for an escape plan, for a life outside the United States, whether that's just having a second passport, having investments overseas, or actually fully expatriating for the United States. The Expat Money Show is the place to start. You can subscribe over at expatmoneyshow.com, and while you're at it, why don't you join the Expat Money Forum on Facebook? I help to moderate that group as well. You can find that over at expatmoneyforum.com.
We need to empower people with not just the philosophical tools, but the inspiration to break free from the system.
Welcome to the flagship Lions of Liberty podcast, your weekly dose of education, inspiration, and real-world application from the top minds in the Liberty movement.
If you want liberty, we need to be better leaders, better husbands, better fathers, better friends, better businessmen. We need to be better people.
Here's your host, your guide, your shining beacon of liberty, Mark Clare.
Live long and live free.
All right, kitty cats, welcome back. And it is that time of month here on the Lions of Liberty podcast. It is the time of month when one of our patrons, one of our Nittany level, our $50 per month patrons, takes over one of our shows and just tells us what to do. So that's what's happening again. And to tee up what we're going to be talking about today, I have longtime patron, Nittany level member, the esteemed Anthony Meyer. Anthony. Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, are you ready to roar? I forgot how my own show works.
I was ready to roar, but you just threw me off my game with that.
And then I snapped you out of the whole thing, and now you're just not sure.
No. Plus, I'm a Spartan too, so I don't roar like a Nittany.
Fair enough. It's more of a battle cry.
Yep.
All right. So, Anthony, what are you having us do today?
Oh, the last time I made you guys...
Yeah, I should also let people know, for those not aware, Anthony, this is the second time Anthony's been a Nittany level producer, and the last time he had us watch a movie called Zardoz, which I have to say was amazing and one of the greatest experiences of my life. So you set a high bar.
Well, and it is my favorite movie, period. And
of all
even
time,
after
literally.
Even after watching the Snyder Cut, Zardoz is still my favorite movie of all time.
Is there a Snyder Cut of Zardoz?
There should be.
Zardoz?
We need to call HBO Max and make a Snyder Cut of Zardoz happen.
I just want Snyder Cuts of everything now.
Yeah, exactly. Snyder Cut of Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah.
Let's do a Snyder Cut of Pride and Prejudice. I might actually stay awake through it.
Just give the guy $70 billion and throw him any old movie and see what happens.
Well, I can't do better than Zardoz. I gave you guys a different movie this time. It is probably my second favorite science fiction film from the 70s. It is actually an Oscar-winning film. It won the Oscar for Best Special Effects, which shows you just how low the bar was in 1976 before Star Wars came around. But it's not as quotable as Zardoz, but I think you'll start seeing what I admire about 1970 science fiction. And that's a lot of 1970 science fiction movies all had the same premise, and it was kind of a warning of the perils and dangers of socialism and communism.
And we didn't listen.
No, we did not listen at all.
I mean, you and I did, but society at large, not so much.
Just as Zardoz was a great movie where it showed that a utopian society could exist if you get rid of the question of universal health care by making everyone immortal. Logan's Run kind of takes a little bit of a different spin by basically brainwashing the populace into thinking that they will be renewed, reborn into... You can watch the movie as many times as I can. I still am not sure if they're born or if they're cloned. But either way, they believe they're reincarnated, essentially, and they believe they're reincarnated if they voluntarily kill themselves in a ritual sacrifice called carousel, and that's when they reach 30 years old. So I'm interested to see what you guys have as a take on this. I understand Remzo's involved this time, and I know Remzo is an absolute wonderful purveyor of old, crappy movies. So this one might be a little bit better than he's used to, so I'm definitely looking forward to hearing what he has to say. But yep, that's the premise. That's what I expect of you guys.
All right, well, lucky for you, you do not have to wait very long because we are going to go live in the Pride. As a patron, you will be able to see us discuss this film live in just a few minutes. So, Anthony, thank you so much for teeing us up for this one, and I guess you'll be tuning in. So we'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, Mark.
We are live in the Lions of Liberty Pride Facebook group. That's why you got to join the Pride. And I mean, there are many reasons to join the Pride. Support your favorite libertarian podcast, see our live streams, get all sorts of bonus audio content, or be like Anthony Meyer and be a Nittany level patron and get us to review, in this case, to review a movie. In this case, we're reviewing the film Logan's Run. And with me, I have, actually, first of all, by request, our patron actually requested someone from a competing libertarian podcast, but we made it happen, from the We Are Libertarians Network, as well as my co-host on the Second Print Comics podcast. He is Remzo Martinez. Remzo, hello.
You see, the people get what the people want, Mark. That's how markets work.
And they
did he request Remzo specifically, yes, or was he like anybody from any other podcast?
No,
and this was just the dregs that you were able to drudge up.
Calm down, Lex Luthor. The people have spoken, and they spoke. We want Remzo.
I know.
He said any non-lion will do. And then, yes, Brian McWilliams is also here because he didn't want to be left out at the end of the day.
I decided Mark was sending out emails begging, pleading, offering money, cash prizes, all unfettered access to the sperm bank that he runs out of the freezer at the back of his unit. And I said, okay, fine. Because Logan's Run's a great movie, man. I like it quite a bit. I have my complaints, though. Don't you worry. I've got plenty.
I guess we're going to skip right to our review.
No. Well, yeah, I got to go. I got places to be. But
right. Well, let's just dive into it then. Why don't we just dive in? First of all, I know Remzo has seen it before this review. You had seen it as well before this review, right?
Yeah, I saw it before, but it had been at least 2 or 3 years. I watched it somewhat recently, but it's such a long movie that I rewatched it again. I was kind of fast forwarding through some bits, but I tried to get a rewatch in before the recording here.
All right. Well, funny story. I thought I had seen it before, but it turns out I was thinking of the movie The Prisoner. So I had not seen Logan's Run before. I was like, this isn't how it goes.
You're like, people aren't there. I looked it up. Numbers? Yeah. Where's the bubbles that attack people?
I think these are all there. There's a similar theme as I was talking with Anthony about right before this. We did a little segment to tee this up, but this is a theme of these 70s sci-fi movies. It's always some kind of take on the yes, you can have a dystopian sort of like a society where everybody has everything, but we need to someone's got to cut a cost somewhere. And in the case of Logan's Run, it's you die at 30. So.
Yeah, I know. That's a good point. The Soylent Green, of course, Zardoz. Similar, Zardoz. Yeah, this had a lot of similarities with Zardoz, by the way. I was jotting them down. I actually thought I thought Francis, the other Sandman, was actually the buddy friend for about 10 minutes. I had to Google it. I thought they were the same actor. But there was a lot of similarities. Nudity, frozen people.
You thought he was friend from Zardoz?
For some reason, yeah, they have a similar facial look, I guess.
Interesting.
So I thought they were the same person.
All right. Well, fair enough. Well, I will just and I know Remzo, you have a history of this movie, right?
Yeah, it's one of those films that I've seen on multiple occasions, but I've never watched it all the way through. I've always watched half of it here and half of it there. I've started there because like what Brian mentioned, I don't have a problem with long movies. I have a problem with long movies that have dry spots in it. So I like this film. I just don't like all of this film, but it's still a good movie.
Fair enough. All right. Well, I will just start going through the general plot, and you two will chip in, chirp in, whatever you want, whenever you feel like it. That's the format. So here we go. We start off, we are in the future. We are in the 23rd century, and the only remaining people, supposedly, as far as we know on Earth, are this group of survivors that lived through war, overpopulation, and pollution. They all live in a domed city. This is all from a little graphic at the beginning, where man lives only for pleasure. There is just one catch, and that is that life ends at 30 unless you choose to be reborn in the fiery ritual known as the carousel. And we start off, we get to see this domed city. There's actually, it seems like there were multiple domes. And when they started to zoom in on it, what it seemed like to me is that these are obviously a half of a golf ball on a miniature set that they set up as a dome.
It was awesome. I love good model work. They also had some nice tubes that you saw the little cars going through. They did some nice overlay work of models on top of people walking, real people walking, just really dynamite stuff. I mean, if we're going to talk about the bad special effects work or practical effects work, we should save that for when we talk about Box, the robot later, which is the king of horrible effects. But I don't know, man. Maybe it's my love of Godzilla films. I don't mind the model work. What about you, Rimzo?
Oh, it reminds me of like the 1970s, 1980s Doctor Who TV series.
Yeah.
It's like you watch it now and it's like, it's so fucking terrible. It's endearing in a way. And you almost feel nostalgic for those times before giant CGI.
Yeah, agreed.
All right. Well, moving into the plot, let's see. Man, sometimes I read my notes and I'm like, what does this mean? I wrote dudes waking up a baby, but yeah, it was Logan and Francis, these two dudes, and they're like looking at this baby, and this one guy who is what is this actor's name? He's the guy from Austin Powers.
Robert, I want to say Robert Jordan, but I don't think that's it. It's
Nope, that's not it at all.
You
can see we really do our research here. At Lions Live.
Richard Jordan. I actually looked it up before I came on here too, like a minute ago. I think it's Richard Jordan.
Is he the guy who plays number 2 in Austin Powers?
Yeah, exactly.
He's the guy that plays the boss of Austin Powers. Oh no, you're talking about the main actor. I was sorry, I'm confusing with Francis.
Michael York. My God. Michael York. All of you were completely
Michael
wrong.
York, yeah. Who, by the way, looks well over 40 in this. Like his head looks 40. Maybe his body looks younger, but he has an old looking head.
There's something in the water during the 70s.
Perhaps. But yeah, basically the reason he's looking at this baby,
face is getting old.
I guess this baby is.
Have you ever compared a photo of Steve McQueen to Andy Samberg when they were both 30? Andy Samberg looks like he hit puberty. Steve McQueen already looks like he had lived like 50 years at that point. People
Steve McQueen's the fucking man. He was out in the sunshine, banging bitches,
30
racing cars, doing cool shit.
Yeah, jumping shit, doing his own stunts in The Great Escape. Never speak ill of Steve McQueen. It's amazing.
Never. No, I mean, I'm just saying, like, as time has gone on, people are starting to look a little bit different.
30 this year, or 30, 40, whatever, is totally different than it was 30 or 40 years ago. Like, I don't know if it's true. No, it is true, because I remember I looked it up on a podcast. The thing where Wilford Brimley was the same age in Cocoon as Paul Rudd in Avengers Endgame, and that's actually true.
That shook me to my fucking core.
They were both 53 at the time of those respective.
Crazy.
Wilford Brimley looks like 80 in that movie, and
Wilford Brimley has a signed Bible
by God.
Yeah, himself.
Anyway.
One real quick. Oh no, tell us why they're banging on the baby cage.
Well, because we find out this baby's name is Logan, just like Brian's daughter here, and this is Logan 6, and we find out this is Logan 5. So what we're figuring out is there's only like a limited number of names that exist in this society, and when you're Logan whatever, Logan 4, Logan 5, then there's going to be a one that comes after you, I guess. So he was just excited to see this next Logan that I guess is going to take over when he turns 30 in this ends.
And become a Sandman. Just like him.
Sandman. So I guess he's supposed to be 26 here, because he said later in the movie, he's like, oh no, but I had 4 years left. So that means, I guess he's supposed to be 26 in this. Yeah. Definitely doesn't look 26.
Does not in any way. Neither does Francis. Like, I guess the girl in the film looks pretty good. She looks fairly young, but there's also, they find like later on, they find a woman, another runner who's like, she's like, I'm 30. And she easily looks like she's not all dirtied up. So she must be a recent runner, but she's clearly 45 if she's a day.
At least.
Which one are you talking about? Which one?
We'll get to it when they go into the cathedral later on and they find the other runner. She's like in a red dress.
Okay. All right. Well, anyway, yeah, and what we find out is that the Sandmans. They say the Sandmans always renew. So basically, Sandmen are the ones that hunt down runners. Runners are those who, I guess, when they reach the age of 30, instead of renewing, they decide to try to run out of and run away, and they always get killed. Is that's what I was understanding? Is that accurate? Because it was a little.
They're basically age cops.
Yeah. They're the Jean-Claude Van Dammes of this era of film. They are time cops, but they're for your time, not time travel. When your time is up, this version of Jean-Claude Van Damme comes after you.
What I didn't get is when, like, where do runners think they're running to? Because as far as we know, as far as they know, is that there's no life outside the city, outside the Dome City. So, like, where do they think they're running to? Or they're just running away from dying?
I think they'd rather just take the chance of figuring it out than getting blasted or renewed.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll get into that because we do. There's a couple like quotes in the movie that I just wrote down, like because they're in the first half, like a lot of it is Logan and his buddy Francis talking, but we find out that everyone is categorized, and Logan is just like, you can tell he's like a curious person. He's just asking a lot of questions, and Francis says something that I found interesting. He says, "Questioning slows you down," which I thought was just
I wrote that same exact line down. Yeah. That was an awesome line. When you question, it slows you down. Yeah. I love that doctrine imposed into it. And of course, this is all passed down. Like one thing we forgot about is just like there's basically humanity is run by an automated machine system, basically. So, they're all clearly brought up and state run. You're born in these breeding tubes. You're brought up in whatever education system they happen to have. And then, of course, you're indoctrinated into the world and the way of thinking. So yeah, Francis saying questioning slows you down obviously has been bred into him, or the Sandman types, kind of like I guess the military, don't question authority, take your orders, and that way we can operate more efficiently. Remzo, your experience in regards to this?
Basically that.
Well,
Remzo, you're still slow. Are you questioning anything? No, I'm not. I had
a flashback of like a really bad moment, and I'm like, I've got like the Doors playing in the background from the beginning of Apocalypse Now. I'm like, do I talk about it? No, this is a fun show. Don't ruin it.
Well, we then get to see this weird occult ceremony. I called it an occult ceremony because it feels like an occult ceremony, the renewal ceremony called the Carousel. And it's really, really weird.
That's some Bohemian Grove shit.
It's definitely some Bohemian Grove shit. These people all gather around. They're all in these weird robes, these weird costumes, and things start happening, and they start like floating up into the sky on obvious strings that you can actually see like pretty clearly. And then it seems like when they get up there, they just explode. so I guess
worse ways to go.
Yeah, and everyone in the crowd, they're loving it. They think they're thinking it's a great time because to them, from their understanding, when they explode, they're getting somehow renewed. I guess that means.
Could you imagine young Osama bin Laden watching this? Like, those guys are onto something.
Now you mentioned we're not sure if they get like reincarnated or recloned. I was under the impression, now they don't make everything clear here necessarily. I was under the impression that they just explode. Like there's no real renewal, but I'm not sure what the renewal is supposed to be. Is it supposed to be they come back in these other new baby bodies? Like what's the theory behind
So
it?
One thing that I don't think the film does a good job of, but if you miss it, it makes a lot of things more confusing. They've got those diamonds in their hands that basically begin to tell them when it's their time and everything. So while we live in a real super technological age, there's also this realm of mysticism that they never get into. So the way I took it is they destroy the physical body, but what happens to the soul? And when you get reborn, is it really you? Or, and this is just a complete theory, I know this is probably out there, I just haven't read about it, or is somebody convinced that they have been reincarnated? That way they can keep the lie going, so that way they could keep people willingly doing this whole crazy nonsense stuff.
I took it as they just tell them, don't worry, when you go up in that weird thing, you explode. And I guess the people that don't believe that, maybe they're the ones that become runners. They're like, well, we're not going to go to that thing, so I guess we're just going to get chased by these Sandmen until we die.
Well, I think it's something, too, where, at the end of the movie, you kind of see how the machine state apparatus can kind of get in your heads. They have this whole interrogation process that he goes through, as well as getting his target and his goal and mission for the film. So I think that probably they buy into the fact that this machine is, because of the gems, maybe has some sort of interface into their minds. And it's kind of like a Ghost in the Machine is what I'm presuming, where it tells you that, oh, don't worry, you'll be uploaded into our cloud, right? Ahead of its time, up into the cloud. And you will be reconstituted in the birthing tubes down the way. Because remember, none of these people know who their parents were. I guess they presume that they fuck, you take the baby out, you pop it in a tube, it gets raised by the machine. But on the same level, maybe there's something similar to the way it was done in Zardoz, where they regrow them. Again, there's a lot of parallels with Zardoz in this movie, but they regrow them and it's just you, but you're spit back out by the cloud.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll never really know what really happened or didn't happen.
Yeah, but they didn't make clear how people, like everybody exploded in Carousel. I thought that, like one person wouldn't. Like that's the winner. That's the one that gets reconstituted.
I think the idea is like what Remzo was saying, like they destroy the body or the body explodes because of this thing, but then the soul is going to come back, I guess. But I don't know.
But again, I thought it was not everybody in Carousel gets renewed. I thought that the premise was
my understanding is
it's not like generations have passed and like all the people are all the same people from when the society started. Or maybe I got confused. I don't think so. I think
my understanding was that they were still making new people because they're banging all the time. And they were saying like they never knew their mother and their father, but that means that they must have come from something because the lead chick, Jenny, I don't know,
Jessica.
I can't remember her name. Jessica, thank you. She was like, I wish I had known my mother. So they clearly have a concept of, I had a mother. I was birthed. So that means to me that they came from new genes, new gene combos. Oh, there must be.
I just figured they're coming from these orgies that are always going on. And then they just take the baby.
Yeah, exactly.
Age of Aquarius, bitches.
Yeah, this is the age of Aquarius.
I did love it. I do love that every 70s film from this era has to have a real long, weird orgy scene. Like this one had a nice one in I think the second, maybe midway through the film when they're running away, they'd run into like some weird disco and it's just a super slow motion groping for about 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. It has, whenever they get to the orgy scene in a 70s film, we have to go slow motion and have it go on for an awkwardly long amount of time when they really could have just run through the room in like 2 minutes. Instead, they had to have everyone groping them and like them falling all over the place, like just to make sure that we see as much nudity as possible during that time.
Yeah. Well, that much I do appreciate. Also, let me just say this, because I don't know when I'll get to mention it. Sandmen, the worst shots ever. Yeah. How are they that bad at shooting?
Well, they're like stormtroopers.
Yes.
I kind of took that as like, because like so right after the ceremony, Logan and Francis, they find a runner and they go kill him. Or Logan tries to kill him. Like he shoots like 4 times. He must miss like 4 shots in a row. And then Francis kills the guy. And I was thinking that this was kind of setting us up to maybe think that maybe Logan doesn't really want to kill or maybe he just really is a bad shot. I don't know. There are a lot of things that aren't exactly clear in this film.
He's too busy drinking and fucking to go to the range.
And now maybe you guys can explain this to me. I didn't really understand the identity check thing where he checked his identity and then it was like maybe it seemed like it was a different face or he'd gotten a new face or something.
Yeah, he got his face replaced because later on, you remember Logan tries to get his own surgery done by the crazy doctor who tries to slice him up.
But what's the point?
Which one? What's that?
What's the point of replacing your face?
Oh, I guess it's free. You can do it. I think it's just one of those things when you've got nothing but free time and there's no real cost to it. Because one of the things I was trying to figure out is in a society where people only live for pleasure, I guess if you're a Sandman, you get certain perks as far as your lifestyle, and maybe that's for everybody. But if you're hot ass Farrah Fawcett, instead of getting to play and run around and fuck all day, you just sit at a desk. That doesn't sound fair.
All right, gang. Well, you know what else doesn't sound fair? It's the fact that I have to interrupt this program, but it is in fact fair because I'm doing so to tell you about one of our wonderful sponsors, and our sponsors are the ones that keep this show going. So, I've got a few questions for you. Do you like coffee? Do you like premium Italian coffee? Do you like it affordably delivered to your house? Well, guess who does that? Our friends at Lorenzotti Italy. You can find them at lorenzotti.coffee. That's lorenzotti.coffee. I will also link to that in today's show notes. And I really want to encourage you to support these guys because they are not just fine connoisseurs and procurers. Is that a word? Procurers? You know what I'm trying to say, of fine Italian coffee. But they are also great libertarians, great supporters of this program, patrons of this program for over a year here now, as well as great entrepreneurs and people who help others. So they also, in addition to getting fine premium coffee delivered to your house, they can also help you set up your own coffee business, whether it's getting equipment, getting financing, trying to set up your own coffee shop. These are the guys to go to. So they really are a one-stop shop for whether you're a coffee lover or whether you're trying to get into that niche as an entrepreneur. So please do check out our friends at Lauren Zotti Italy at laurenzotti.coffee and use discount code LIONS for 10% off your order. At this scene, I also should mention the dead body like basically turns to meat, like rotten meat, and then it evaporates. That's what happens when you kill it.
Yeah, I didn't get that because like that whole thing is like, are these people or not? Because it was already weird with the whole crystal hands thing. Then that happens, and it's like, did the laser do that? Did somebody else do that? Are these the same people? Like, do they just randomly explode?
It was the steam that they dropped. Like this weird machine came over him, like guys on those little scooters, and he sprayed him with some sort of
and that's
chemtrail.
what broke him down to kind of get rid of him.
Yeah, the chemtrail broke him down.
Okay,
like what Mark likes to look up out of the sky.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so Logan. We then have a scene where Logan. Now, I thought at first when I saw this, I thought he like created this woman out of thin air. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. You can just create a woman to fuck out of thin air. But I guess he like
weird science.
I guess he just teleported her into his room and brought her there to have sex. I guess that's what you do.
Awesome.
And it kind of seemed like
technology.
It kind of seemed like they're like prostitutes, but I don't know if they get paid. There was no discussion of money.
No, it was like because there was a dude at first who was like, "Hey, sailor," and he was like, "No dick tonight for me." I think like he said she put herself on the circuit, so there must be kind of like when people used to go on Chatterbait or whatever that one was, where you'd flip through and just see a bunch of guys' dicks on your computer screen. I think people would get horny.
What websites were you visiting?
It was that social. It was like a
chat
video
roulette.
Chat roulette. Yes, this is like chat roulette, but for this new future age. So if you're horny, you put yourself in the circuit to go bang some people. Which made me wonder, like, it's 21. Where is my sex teleportation machine?
Yeah, Elon.
I want one. I want in my closet. So she showed up, I guess by coincidence, put herself on the thing and ended up in his big ass Sandman apartment.
Yeah, so they're having a conversation here, and I just wrote down a few quotes from the conversation. Let me just read the 3 quotes and then see if we can build a story out of it. The first one is, "I've never killed. Sandmen terminate runners." I like that one. How he's saying like, "Oh, I don't kill. I just terminate runners." And then my next quote, "Let's have sex." and my last quote, "Why is it wrong to run?" So this is all a conversation that they end up having. Like he wants to have sex with her, but then she's kind of like, "I don't really want to," and he's not going to force her to. So he's like, "All right, well, what's going on here?" And but then she basically get into this conversation about running and the whole thing, and then she poses the question to him like, why is it wrong to run? And he doesn't really have an answer. It seems like Logan is subtly threatening to kill her here too, because he's like, he not that subtly. I think he like even brings out his gun like when she's suggesting that like maybe she wants to run, and she's like, no, I'm not gonna run. I'm young. I still have plenty of time. He's like, all right, I'll let you go for now. So yeah, they're pretty strict on this killing runners thing, huh?
Can you imagine you're about to hook up and they want to have a conversation about existential theology?
Baby, this is a big boner killer. Can you get back to running? That kind of gets my blood pumping.
Yeah, I did laugh really hard when Michael York just goes, "All right, well, let's have sex."
Yeah, he was really pitching it. Even when he's like, "We have the same feelings as everyone else. Do you want to see?" He's like, "Let's go back and have some sex."
Yeah, and then and Francis comes over. I don't know if they live together or what, but he's there with a couple chicks, and he releases this like purple mist, which is apparently just like aerosol ecstasy. That is what it seems like. We also see it in the orgy scene, so that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The future was supposed to be so bright.
Yeah,
I mean it's great, except for the dying at 30 thing. I mean, think how many books and magazine articles would not be written in this society about people that are so important. 40 under 40 wouldn't exist. Life begins after 30. Can't write that book anymore. Terrible. So many hack writers out of a job.
And I wrote down the question, why do they run instead of going to Carousel? But then I answered my own question saying, because Carousel obviously kills them. So maybe the people that don't go to Carousel are the people that are like, they go to the thing. Like most of the people are like, oh, awesome, you get to renew. But maybe there's some people that are like, yeah, they're obviously blowing up, so I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just what separates like the free things in society.
Nobody goes to Carousel except the one time. They're like, I'm sure it's fine. I don't need to go to see it myself. I'll catch it later.
So then Logan, I guess they go in for like their assignments to like that machine kind of like tells them what to do. And the machine tells Logan, first of all, it shows him the Ankh, and the Ankh is the symbol that I think that chick was wearing, and he brings it in because he wants to like learn what it is. And then this machine tells him about Sanctuary, supposedly a place that exists outside of the dome, where people run off to and try to escape the whole thing. And he's just like, what? That's not possible, because he says that's related to runners that are not accounted for. And he's like, what do you mean runners not accounted for? That's not possible. And then I even wrote down. So I don't know if I just decided this myself or something in the movie happened, but I wrote, holy shit, nobody has ever been renewed. Yeah, because I think that's the thing that comes up. They're saying like, oh, all these people that are unaccounted for, but it was like the people that were supposed to have been renewed. So maybe they're saying like they're not actually being renewed, and that's the revelation here. But Logan does get authorized to leave the dome in order to find this sanctuary and destroy it. So what do you guys think about this mission? Because I kind of thought, I don't know, I wasn't sure. As with a lot of this movie, I wasn't sure, but I kind of thought like, it turns out like this is probably, I'm thinking it probably is a trap of some kind, but also, why? Because why would the computer set even mention Sanctuary, even mention that there's something outside of there if it wants everybody to think that, that this is all legit?
Well, it's like if all the rebellious people, Logan isn't necessarily one of them. Like if they were really setting this up for like a typical like post-apocalyptic film, it would have been the chick he was hooking up with the other night. With him, it's more like he is just really doing his job.
Right. Yeah. He's an undercover agent. He's the Donnie Brasco of the society. So he wants to infiltrate this because he's, the computer is sussed out that maybe he's got some sort of in with this chick, maybe by seeing her in Ankh and the Ankh that he found on the dead body. And but also, it lays out in that scene, the computer lays out very specifically that there is no renewal, which shakes Logan to his core. And also, let's not forget, it also takes away his life force, which he asked several times, am I going to get this life force back?
Yeah, he gets
Rimzo's doing a big yawn. He's obviously losing his life force.
I muted. I was polite about it, at least.
He gets a life clock reset, but that it basically set him like 4 years. It took 4 years away from him, essentially.
Right, exactly. And he's like, am I going to get it back? And it's like, all right, see you later. And he's like, wait, am I going to get it back? Is there no renewal? It's like, I answered your question. See you later. So, the lies of the state computer were laid bare here. And then, I'm thinking it's just saying like, go infiltrate. And they're tracking him because he's got, I guess, the gem in or some system to track him because they clearly find him later. So he's the mole.
It's not that hard to find. I mean, the dome's pretty small.
True.
And then Logan calls the whore back. Her name is Jessica. I guess she wasn't really a whore, it turned it out, but and
she's a strong, individual, empowered woman who don't need no man.
Yeah, he basically
she doesn't need a bra either. Neither did anything in this movie. Kudos.
God, the 70s must have been lit.
Yeah.
Yeah, he basically lays it out. He's like, I'm going to run. Like, my life force thing is up. Like, I'm going to run. And she's like, well, what do you mean? You've been a Sandman this whole time. You've been hunting runners. You said it's bad to run. I like this line, too, because it's characteristic of so much of what you see in society, where Logan then says, well, it's different now because it's me.
Yeah, totally.
Like, yeah, of course I was all for it when I was killing other people, but now that I'm the runner, hell yeah, of course I should run. Of course I shouldn't get killed. So I thought that was very interesting and something I see just all the freaking time with people who advocate laws, whether it's the right or the left or whoever. They are in favor of every law until, shocker, the law comes after them because there is no escape.
Yep, exactly. One more thing, too, I thought was an interesting line from Jessica was when she's walking around with Logan. I think it's roughly around the same time. And they pass by the pods where all the babies are, the breeder pods. And Jessica laments. She goes, I mentioned this earlier, but she goes, I wish I had known my mother and father. And Logan like scoffs at it. He's like, what an idiotic concept, the family unit. And I was like, oh, that sounds familiar. Sounds quite similar to what's going on today with people trying to destroy the family unit, put children into, state-run education, state-run foster care instead of having parents raise them. Interesting parallels with today.
I mean, what I always liked about this story is it like so many others, remind me of two of my favorite books. One is A Brave New World, and the other is Anthem. And like public education and not knowing your family and being given your identity, it's a part of all of them, but it's the thing that makes these characters who they are. So it shocks me, and not to get on a tangent with it. It's like in popular culture, this type of stuff used to be defended. This type of storytelling used to be the mainstream, and over the last 10 years with all the new post-apocalyptic films and stuff, Hunger Games, The Giver, all that jazz, you would think that would be something that more people would catch on to. And so we seem to be advocating for that. So it's one of those weird disconnects between we support it wholeheartedly in a movie when we're attached to the characters and the stories, but when we leave the screen and we start looking around us, it's like, nope, I like the way things are.
Mm-hmm.
Just a thought.
Well, that kind of reminds you of, I mean, jumping forward a bit in the film is, that you have a lot of the concept of what is truth and what is lies is recurring throughout this movie, and how people refuse to believe the truth of their situation. Francis several times denies it. He goes, "That's a lie. I don't believe it. That's not the truth." Even though you're presented with the truth, that kind of rings true with what you're talking about, in that people go to see a movie, they identify a problem, then they walk out, look that problem directly in the fucking face in the society they're living in. They go, no, that's not true. Not true for my government. The movie government, sure, that was true, but not here, because to accept that truth it would be such a blow to everything that they believed in to that point that it's unacceptable to their minds.
Well, it'd be like, Francis, like not being able to accept that,
right,
the running thing or whatever, or even Logan at first, when he first hears that figures out that no one's ever really been renewed, like he can't really even process it at first.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's see. The Logan and Jessica kind of run off. They meet up with some other people, including some dirty little girl. That says in my notes. No, I mean, she's literally a small girl who is dirty, folks. Please. I didn't really get what was going on there, but it seems like there's a group of people who are, I don't know if they're like a resistance, but they're kind of, that question the whole situation. And they basically
homeschoolers.
Jessica kind of, the homeschoolers, exactly. And Jessica kind of like convinced them that Logan can be trusted because he actually let a runner go in the midst of all this. But Francis sees this because he's like following Logan here, and he sees that him do this. So he figures, oh shit, now like Logan's like, he's with the runners now. Like he's no longer a good Sandman. So now he believes that he must now go kill Logan. I'm not really sure how the colors work too, because like Francis killed a runner who was like, they said she was like 22 and should have been green, but wasn't, like, because I think the runners are like red, or people that are gonna be runners wear red. I didn't really get the whole red green situation. I guess red means stop your life, and green means it keeps going. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't really get that.
I always thought it was weird that those things are supposed to be like the indicator of how much time you have left and everything. It's like in this vastly technologically superior society, wouldn't they just have records?
You would think so.
It's kind of overkill. It's like Battlestar Galactica. It's like for the things that are obviously super high tech, they then look at these very basic things, and it's like, I know this is way, 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 way back, but come on, man. Like,
yeah,
come on.
Well, I like that they also apparently don't have cameras anywhere, in the society. Like we do everywhere right now. We have cameras everywhere.
That's maybe the most unrealistic.
Like your local mall in your small town during the year this came out had more security than the Dome and everything.
Right. Exactly.
That's where the disconnect occurs.
Yeah, and it's weird too. I know the robot state apparatus gave him access to go outside the city walls to the cathedral, but I thought it was odd. It's like, why do you even have tubes that go to these terrible places? Why are you even building access tunnels so that these weird child societies and their little urchins can get in?
This is the part where it's decided there's this like hot chick, I think her name was Holly, that really wants Logan to get
Farrah Fawcett, man. Farrah Fawcett.
Oh, that's Farrah Fawcett. That's what you're talking about before.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but she really wants Logan to have dark hair, and he's like digging it. He's like, all right, yeah, this chick wants me to have dark hair. I guess I'll have dark hair. And then
do whatever the hell she says.
The guy that's doing the face off, he gets a call and he turns off the healing. So like this thing scars you to change your face, but they have this thing that heals you immediately, so it doesn't matter. But he turns it off, and I guess they realize it once Logan starts to get like hit with it, and then Logan flips out and kills the guy and throws him onto the machine. And then since the healing is off, the machine kills the guy.
Well, wait, you skipped one important thing there. Is that the doctor gets a call, right?
I said he gets a call from somebody and says, okay, turn off the healing.
Yeah, here I was going to say it made no sense to me though, because he gets a call from some unknown people that apparently he's supposed to kill Logan now, right? And that would defeat the entire fucking purpose of everything that's happened to that point. Like, why would he? And it's not like you can tell the guy.
You mean if it's like the computer trying to
control the computer, and it's like, okay, so you're gonna kill the guy that's supposed to infiltrate this whole thing. This is stupid. This whole scene doesn't make any sense.
I thought maybe it was Francis. Like Francis had just like called his superiors and said Logan's gone off the thing, and
hey, is Holly there? Put her tits on the phone. Oh, she's in with who? Logan. Kill him. Is that how
Kill that guy. That's pretty much exactly how it went.
Everybody seems like slightly distracted, and that's the weird thing about it, because him infiltrating, him leaving the society and everything, like all this is supposed to be like a really important thing, and everyone is just like, this is just a regular day. So it's like, this is either important or it's not. And then there's the other part of me thinking, well, they're not all actually doing their jobs all day. They're too busy getting high, drinking, and fucking like crazy. So like, who would really care about this? It's just another day.
So Logan, Francis is there too. Francis shows up because he's still chasing Logan. Like he says, I think this is where he says, like, I saw you let that runner go. And then he knocks out Francis and we're on the run. So of course, then Logan, we're on Logan's run now. Logan and Jessica run through this orgy room where there's this
Orgy room!
Where, as happens in orgy rooms, there's a massive orgy, and they just run through it gratuitously for 5 minutes or slow, sometimes in slow motion, as we discussed before. So
how much did those actors get paid?
I mean, maybe nothing.
I would actually pay to be in that scene.
they said,
I
hey,
would have paid $10 to lie around
an orgy?
and fondle
Like, yeah,
hot
like,
people
all right.
in the 70s.
All right, we're gonna film it. So okay, cool. Yeah, I think they just happened upon an orgy and were like, hey, start rolling. We could use this for the movie.
Have either of you ever seen Westworld?
I thought you were gonna say, have you been in an orgy?
On Westworld in season 2, there was the giant orgy, and apparently a bunch of the actors who were extras, they didn't actually get paid afterwards. So like a year later, they're like, yeah, I showed my tits and I was promised like $50, and people are now texting me now, and I didn't get shit for that.
Well, read the fine print, folks.
If you're the orgy actress, you're not a real actress. I'm sorry. We appreciate you, but the studio didn't.
So now I thought they got to the sanctuary. Maybe this wasn't the case. I was confused if sanctuary was supposed to be like where this group of people are in the dome, or if it's supposed to be somewhere outside the dome, which was my original impression. But this, he seems to be back with like these people, including Holly. Or no, this is where Holly shows up. Farrah Fawcett shows up and sells them out. Says that oh no, he's a Sandman, he's a killer. And then they're like, yeah, but didn't he save the runner? And she's like, yeah, I guess he did save the runner. So now they believe him and they let him go. So that was weird. I don't know if Holly's just supposed to be like retarded, or if she like was supposed to be just on drugs or whatever. Like at first she didn't think he was good and then thought he was, because they reminded him that he did in fact let the runner go, which meant that he was on them side. So that was confusing, but kind of par for the course.
She's too hot for anyone to want to argue with her.
And the chase is back on. So they are just running and running. There's I just wrote sewer battle in capital letters. So there was a sewer battle. I don't think we need to spend too much time on a lot of this stuff. There's a lot of chasing. There's a lot of running. Logan's Run. That's what this is. Yeah. They finally make their way to this ice cave, and coincidentally enough, there are some fur coats there that they put on. So they get naked. So it's time to get naked and put on fur coats.
We finally get to see the lead chick, Jessica's boobies.
Yeah, I'm not sure why they decided to get naked, or why the fur coats were waiting for them.
Here's the thing. It made sense. It made sense because they were in soaking wet clothes, and it's in the ice, right? So you take off the soaking wet clothes, but then they put on the furs, and they meet the robot Box, who's the worst looking robot. It's worse than any Halloween costume special effects you've ever seen, to the point where you can see the robot every time he talks. You can see the fucking teeth of the guy in the mask under the robot. It's ridiculous. But later on, he's like, follow me. I'll show you what I'm doing. And they put their soaking wet clothes back on under the furs. That part made no sense. Why would you put fucking freezing cold clothes back on from the floor? You're wearing furs already.
Could you imagine the actors as they're getting ready to rehearse that scene, and she's like, why do I have to get naked if we're just going to put them back on? Because I said so.
Yeah, exactly. Just leave your clothes on at that point. Why? Yeah, none of it made sense.
There's that interview with Ben Affleck when Armageddon came out, where Ben Affleck is asking Michael Bay, he's like, the whole plot of the story is teaching, oil drillers to be astronauts. Wouldn't it be easier to teach astronauts how to be oil drillers? And Michael Bay is like, shut up and never talk about it again.
So at this point, this robot shows up, and I didn't really understand what the deal with the robot is, but eventually he is gonna decide to freeze their asses and have a blast doing it. So he tries to go after them, and basically they just
wait. Anthony, I have to interrupt you. Anthony Meyer. Wanted to make sure to say that I mentioned the fact that this is the time. Boy, that box smells fishy. I told him I would say.
Is that a line in the movie, or is that a line from you?
But Box is there, and he's freezing people, and he goes, "Fish and plankton." and seagrass.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was weird.
Over and over and over again.
Everything about this was weird.
Freezing food, I guess, as it came in. That was his job. So he's just been freezing runners. That's what he does. He freezes runners. We see a bunch of hot frozen chicks. That was fun.
So basically, if runners make it out of it that far, then this guy freezes them, essentially.
Right, exactly.
All right, I can buy that, I suppose, since I'm buying everything else in this movie. So let's see. Now, eventually, they break free from this robot guy, and they're outside in the real world. They're actually outside the dome. And after a tremendous amount of walking, they finally get to this statue, which appears to be Abe Lincoln. And at this point, Logan says, "Oh, that must be the look of being old." Why is Abe Lincoln the one that they always use? They did it in the Planet of the Apes movie, the second, the Marky Mark one. And I guess that's the only other example I can think of. So maybe always was an exaggeration.
Well, he stands for emancipation from your overlords, right?
I guess to the normies, that is what it stands for. So I guess it makes perfect sense in the context of the mainstream narrative on these things.
Yeah.
They have evidence that people aged, because that statue of Lincoln clearly looks like someone that has aged beyond 30. Although I don't know how they would know what aging beyond 30 looks like, because they've never seen that before. But I guess that's why he's like,
I think the thing is, if you're living in their society and you choose to be like Abe Lincoln, it's not because you had the choice of looking better.
Fair.
True.
That's true.
Or else you would literally choose not to be Abe Lincoln.
Maybe this is how it all happened. They saw what happened. They saw this statue. Like, that's what happens if you get old. Like, no, we need to think
back to the dome. They find Lincoln. Clearly, outdoors are just fine. There's vegetation and sunlight, right? And we have 10 minutes of them walking around.
Yeah,
because again, the 70s love ponderously uncut scenes. So you see all the fucking monuments.
They just literally have them walk a mile and just air it. They just run the whole thing. They don't cut it walking. Like, all right, walk a mile. We're going to be shooting the whole time, so stay in character.
They go bathing. That's fun. They swim around in a lake a little bit.
Yeah, there's a nice little swim in there that we didn't need, but we did because we got a little more nudity. It's the 70s. And then they come upon this place, this building, which is clearly the White House. So obviously from Lincoln, we were in Washington, D.C. Then they find this old guy, and I my mind started to explode here, because suddenly I realized I was in the movie Cats. Like, literally, and he had a bunch of cats, but then he starts quoting, and I had to do some research to understand this, because this movie came out before the very first performance of Cats. So what I'm realizing now is that Cats is based on this T.S. Eliot poem about these cats. So I guess that was so famous before that this old fucker starts quoting what I thought he was quoting the movie Cats, but I guess he's just quoting the movie Cats, the play Cats, but he's just quoting this T.S. Eliot shit about cats. He's talking about jellicle cats and McCavity, and I was having flashbacks to watching the movie Cats on a substance of some kind, and man, it was just my mind just exploded during this whole thing.
I'll never watch this movie the same again.
No.
Well, the jellicle cat thing, the concept of the carousel and rebirth is part of that whole Cats narrative. So
exactly. Yeah.
Remzo's mind just got blown out of his skull.
Yeah. In Cats, I never thought we'd be talking about the movie Cats, but in Cats, they have this
release
talent.
The butthole cut.
They have a talent show, so that, and then the winner gets to ascend to something or other. It's very unclear. Much like the renewal, it's unclear what you're ascending to. But that's
right. So I thought it was kind of a clever juxtaposition between that, showing the similarities thematically. But again, the guy just kept going on and on about these cats, about how the cat's names and this cat and that cat, and it just was. He must have been talking for 20 fucking minutes. I fast forwarded through half of it, to be honest, because I had to finish rewatching it before this podcast.
So let's see. This is when Logan determines that there is no sanctuary. Or I think it's the old guy actually that says it. They're like, "Hey, we're looking for sanctuary." I don't know which one of them says it, but I wrote it down. There's no sanctuary, just the hope. And maybe the hope is enough. It's enough to give. Maybe that's why runners run, because there's a hope. There's at least a hope in running. Whereas if you're on to what's happening, there really is no hope in renewal, because you're really not getting renewed. You're just exploding. Mm-hmm. So let's see. And Logan tells. Okay, so then this motherfucking Francis. Oh wait, I skipped something. They also find the Abe Lincoln painting. So they're and because they saw all these paintings of the presidents, and then Logan's like, "Hey, I recognize that guy from the building." So they're starting to realize there's some kind of history here, but they don't really know what.
No.
Yeah, and then Francis shows up. They fight. Logan tells Francis to look at his palm, and that's when Francis looks at his palm. He's like,
"Oh,
no,
wait,
it
there's
can't
one
be true."
thing. Well, one thing I want to interject here because I was like, why the fuck is Francis still following him? Like, go back
Sandman,
to your
man.
Go back to your orgy teleportation machine. Like, what? Who would care that much to follow these people to the ends of the fucking earth? But then there was one line that explained
first world privilege. First world privilege.
Well, he should be lazy from being raised that way this whole life. But here was my thing: is the one line actually I caught was he had something where he's like, "You killed my friend, the Sandman." Like he's blaming Jessica for killing the Sandman that was Logan. And so I was like, okay, so Jessica and her hot tits killed the Sandman because Logan fell in love with her and now is a runner and abandoned his original mission to find and expose Sanctuary. So I guess that's why he kept following him instead of just being like, oh, fuck this.
That's some Shakespearean shit right there.
Yeah, so they fight. Francis dies, and as Francis died, he says, "Logan, you renewed." So I don't know if like Francis was dying and saw the light, and he just thought, I don't know why he said, "Logan, you renewed." I thought that was.
I think it ties into what I just said. Is that
he's a new man.
He believed that Jessica had killed Sandman Logan, but by Logan killing Francis, he had become the Sandman once more.
Whoa, that's deep.
This is why I'm on the podcast, folks. This is why it's vital to have me here.
Well, despite all of the everything that went down, they are nice enough to give Francis a proper funeral, so that's really nice. And there's another line. Again, there's many things I just didn't understand here. He said like the life clocks made him kill Francis. I didn't understand how. Oh, maybe because he's being a Sandman again. I guess that ties into exactly what you're saying. Okay, so I guess that makes sense.
And that's also where we forgot to say that. Like that's where the scene too, where Francis like the truth is a lie and the lie is the truth thing. Because Logan says, "Look at your palm." Right. And to see the gem, and Francis looks at it, blows his mind because he can't imagine a world in which the gems do not dictate everything, life and death, etc. And that's when Francis goes, "No, this is a lie." So he won't believe what's right in front of his face.
I thought it was funny.
Did you believe Apple updates were like that?
I thought it was funny, like Francis had the gun, but then when he gets pissed off about the lie, he throws down the gun and just jumps like 30 feet onto Logan so he can tussle with him instead of shooting him. So, but maybe that's part of like he didn't want to believe the lie, so he got angry, but then he also did believe it enough that, okay, now I'm not going to shoot you, So I don't know. That's kind of how I took it. Kind of like how I took possibly Logan not actually killing that runner in the beginning, but maybe that was just because he's a poor shot. I don't know. Maybe I read too much into that. Let's see. Then the old dude is explaining love and marriage to these two. They're like, oh, wait, you're saying so people like get together and they live together for like their whole life and because they love each other, like, and they're very confused by the concept, but they seem interested in it, and they're saying what's the phrase? They say like be whatever, beloved wife, beloved husband. So they're learning about love and marriage here. It's very nice and endearing. And then they continue. They stumble upon a dam that apparently is a power supply for the domed city. Then it's time for a swim. They jump in the water, and that gets them to lead them back into the domed city. And they're just in time. I guess, do these renewals happen every day? Because this seems like it's just been like a night that has passed.
If you got like a ton of people, by the odds of it, you're gonna have a lot of birthdays.
This is true. Yeah. So there's a renewal going on, and Logan comes out and he starts screaming. He's like, no, don't do it. Don't go to the renewal. You can live. It's all a lie. You can live.
Have you ever been to a Chili's and they have more than one person who has a birthday? So it's just the waiters and the waitresses coming out doing the little birthday song, and they look dead after the second person. It's like, we got to do this again. Happy birthday.
That must be like the third renewal of the day for these people. Like, another renewal. Okay, just do the fucking thing.
They don't even get the molten lava cake out of it.
So so let's see what happens. So no one listens to Logan. He's like screaming like, you can live, or like don't believe the lie. And people is looking at him like, yeah, okay, whatever. And they start walking back to the renewal, and then Jessica starts yelling. She's like, no, it's true. Like, there's no sanctuary. This thing I don't know why she said there's no sanctuary, but no one, because I thought sanctuary was just brought up by the computer. I don't know. I'm confused about a lot of things in this movie, but again, no one really listens to her. Okay, so this is the part where he is being interrogated. That's where there is no sanctuary thing is. He's like being interrogated by this machine, and he keeps saying over and over, there is no sanctuary, there is no sanctuary. I thought it was interesting because they show like a video of him saying it, but they show him and he's just in this chair. It doesn't look like he's physically saying it. It's like
it's like they had a holographic Yeah, they have a holographic projection of his thoughts, which is why I was thinking like, okay, so the machine clearly is able to penetrate thoughts. And that's why I thought maybe the whole cloud personality thing was a promise it could deliver on at some point.
Yeah. And throughout this, we get this crazy, like,
oh, God.
No, I'm just continuing my description here. Do you have a comment, Remzo?
No.
Okay. Well, yeah. Anyway, he's just having this crazy, like, he's being interrogated and saying, no, there is no sanctuary. And it's like a crazy flashback renewal. You know, he sees shots of the renewal, scenes from basically the whole movie. Like, he's just flashing back through everything. And then finally, Logan, like, breaks free. Once again, he's really good at breaking free out of these contraptions. And he goes on a killing spree. He just, like, starts shooting everybody. And then we see they end up, like, exploding some things in the dome and, like, opening the dome so people can get out. And people are, like, running away from the explosion and getting out. But when they get out, they stumble upon, I decide to dub this guy Old Man Logan because he's old and this is Logan's run. So I call him Old Man Logan. So Old Man Logan is back, the cat freak, the guy who loves the movie Cats, even though it doesn't exist yet.
Hashtag release the butthole cut.
Release the butthole cut. And this is where people start to finally wake up because they are all seeing clearly an old person, which shouldn't exist because either you should just die automatically or you should be renewed. Like, there should be no such thing as an old person. So finally, they have done enough to awaken people to this whole thing. And that's about the movie. That pretty much.
It's like Chris Cuomo's America. Old people, but we thought you all died. Where did you come from?
I tried to kill you all off. I hope that old man gets the orgy up. You know, I'm sure those people are still used to orgies. That guy's been living with cats, probably fucking cats for a long time. I hope he gets some good dicking in those youngins.
With all those young women, you know, there's enough with some severe daddy issues because they never met their daddy.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk
Anything.
about the themes here. Did you guys see some libertarian messaging in this film anywhere?
Free will's the big one. That's the most obvious. So, you know,
that's the theme of all of these 70s sci-fi movies, essentially.
Yeah. I mean, I thought a very strong libertarian theme was state control of information, of the narrative, and of objective reality. You know, you have people consistently living the lie, refusing to believe the truth. You know, it is the 1984 reversal of truth and lies, and of course the projection of a certain reality which is not the truth, and the withholding of information, aka that the outdoors is perfectly livable in order to keep control over society very strictly. So that's obviously very libertarian.
Yeah. I will also add, and this might bother some people, but like libertinism is not necessarily libertarianism, because while they might have access to all the drugs and alcohol and sex that they want, what they're basically being told is we give you the gift of this. It's the big distraction. So you think that you're free, but what you've done is you've just traded a large part of your sovereignty over to this entity that has full control over your life. And that's what happens a lot now. It's like, oh, well, you know, we legalize pot, but at the same time, it's like, okay, we're bombing countries we don't know the name of and stuff like that. And now we don't have access to all these other things. But look, we'll give you some gay marriage here, and we'll give you some legalized mushrooms here. But if you try and pull your kid out of the school system, we're going to send cops to knock down your door. So, yeah, it's the false distraction.
It's a big theme of these 70s movies. Whenever we have this dystopian society, there's always like a lot of drugs, a lot of orgies, a lot of distractions, and there's always no family to like counter this at all. Like the family just doesn't exist ever. So I see that as I don't know if it's a per se libertarian message, but it's a good message. Like that family and like these kinds of relationships are important to our society, important in our individual lives, and not to say the libertine elements don't have their place from time to time, but when society becomes dominated by that, and that's all people are doing, and they've completely rejected the concept of marriage and the family, we're gonna have problems.
Well, I mean, with my libertine comment, it's always like this was not a gift. This was always something that you could have done. It's just that they're not going to kill you for doing it because they know it's going to distract you from questioning their power. In terms of like, institutions and stuff like that, like, when I mention my trad conservative comments on Twitter, I get people coming out at me for being the Liberty grad and shit like that. But it's also like, there's a place for institutions, voluntary institutions. But it's when these institutions are completely destroyed, that's when you get this big power vacuum. And something always fills it.
Indeed. All right. So that about wraps it up. Do we want to do a quick final judgment grade? I don't know if we want to do why don't we just do a standard second print comic style grade this thing on a scale of 10. I will start because I'm already talking. It's a good movie. I like the movie. I think there's enough points in the movie where things weren't clear to me, and I'm all right to figure things out in a movie, but I think there's enough that was ambiguous that I had to kind of think too much about that.
They needed another half an hour, maybe an hour to explain it. Could have used
a little more explanation of some things. And I'm a show don't tell guy, but I felt even the showing wasn't really doing me enough telling. That being said, it's a good movie. I like the concept. It's got the 70s. I'm not going to really hold the production against it because for the time it was, like I said, it won an Oscar for effects. So for the time it was just fine, and had the very, very 70s editing style, which anybody who watches it today trying to compare it to movies today will think it's maybe looks shitty, but it's perfectly in line with the quality of a good film at the time. So I will just say overall, I found it enjoyable, not offensive, not the best movie I've ever seen in my life. I would give it, why don't we say, a 7 out of 10.
Remzo?
I'll give it a 5. It's not terrible. It's just pretty generic. And this is the type of film, like over the last year when I started working at home, I had it on in the background because it was on Amazon Prime. So I would keep it on in the background. This is another reason why I've never watched this movie all the way through. Like, maybe it's a generational thing in terms of your expectations for how story is supposed to flow in film. But even then, it's like, this is coming out the same decade as Star Wars and all this other stuff. They could have sped it up. They could have, if you're going to introduce complicated elements and you're not going to do anything with them, at least simplify them down. It's not terrible. It's just not amazing. So, I mean, 5 out of 10, that's a movie that I'll watch on a Sunday afternoon.
All right.
Wow, weird standard.
I'm surprised I'm surprised I rated this higher than Remzo. I'm absolutely shocked.
I am too, but I'm going to go also 7 out of 10. For similar reasons to Mark. They could have done a much better job editing. They could have cut out 20 minutes of stupid bullshit and done more exposition or explanations as far as some of the nitty gritties of the society. But still, I like it conceptually. It's a fun movie to watch. It's got boobs in it. And how can you argue with the title with the rainbow coming out both sides in that 70s classic lettering, arcade Pac-Man style lettering? So 7 out of 10 for me.
All right. Well, that wraps it up for this month's Nittany special. Thank you to Anthony Meyer for giving us money, $50 a month. Thank you very much. Actually, he's actually higher than that. That's just the level. He actually gives us more than that. So thank you, extra double, Anthony. And thank you to all the patrons who are watching live, and to everybody who is just a cheapskate and waiting for the free show. But to all of you, we do appreciate you. And thank you, Brian. Thank you, Remzo. If you wouldn't mind joining me in a little sign off so we can send Brian off to Costco to do his family duties. Until we meet again, live long and live free. Wow, I think that was the best one ever.
There's no sanctuary.